Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to get started. My name is Brian Snee. I'm the director of the Center for Ethics and Excellence in Public Service. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the University of Scranton and to this celebration of David Wenzel's lifelong commitment to the selfless service of others. As a military veteran, University of Scranton double alum, former Scranton mayor, and pioneering disability rights advocate, among countless other accomplishments, David Wenzel embodies everything that the Center for Ethics and Excellence in Public Service was established to promote. It therefore seems fitting that we would honor him here today with our inaugural Public Service Award. But before we get to the handing out of hardware, several of David's friends and former colleagues have asked to say a few words in his absence and in his honor. And it's my honor to introduce each one of them. And we'll begin with former Scranton Mayor Chris Doherty.
Thanks. Janet, well, what a great night to honor a great man. David is one of my heroes. He's, in an era of selfies and self-important, self-indulgent, there's no Dave Wenzels. There's a guy who carries his own bags and never complains, went off to fight for our country and defend us, and came back severely injured, yet didn't complain. Moved on, got a job, worked, and decided then to lead this city over what would have been major obstacles. Never complained, won, was successful, and then afterwards continued to contribute to the city for many years. I'll tell you an interesting story. I had served my first term. I had not really known Dave. He was the Republican mayor, and I was a Democratic mayor, so there was no reason for me to call him at the time. I would say hi to him, we'd see each other, but I didn't know him as well as I've known him over the years. And I was forced into a runoff for my second term, and someone said, "You better go see Mayor Wenzel, because we're gonna need Republican votes." So, called him up, went over to see him, and I said, "Mayor, I'm here. I think I'll need your help." He goes, "Well, you gotta ask for my help if you want it." I said, "Well, I'm asking." He goes, "Well, you got it." And that was it. That was the bond of our relationship and our friendship. We were successful, and then several years later, we had the idea of building the treehouse in Nayock Park. And I went to see him, and I said, "I want to name the treehouse after you." He goes, "A treehouse? Are you kidding me? Like, well, how about a street? A building? A treehouse? Like, who has that? Like, who wants a treehouse?" I said, "Trust me, it'll work out. It'll work out." A year after it was built, it was named the #1 parks project in America. And so we were so proud. I remember coming over to the house and giving him the cover of the magazine with the treehouse cover and talking about the history of it. And then you really stop and think about a man in his life and how he just led by example. David Wenzel never had to talk about himself. He just walked into the room and you automatically thought about what he's done and what he did in his life and what that meant, not to our city and all the actions he took to develop our city, but just by being himself. Think of the impact he had on young men and women who would ask the question, "Who is this man?" And he was the mayor. What happened to him and what has he done? And then when they get the answers to it, they realize, here's someone you should follow and model. Here's someone who's a true leader of our city and a fine example of what our city produces. Men of dignity and honor and honesty. And as I said, he was just a guy. How do you live, when no one's looking? Do you follow the same examples? Do you follow the same traits? Do you have manners? Are you interested in other people's lives? Do you take the time to ask the questions? To all those questions, it's yes. That's what David was. So on behalf of the people of Scranton, I can say to you, thank you very much. He's made a difference in all of our lives, and Don and I, in our personal lives, that we talk about him. When we got your invitation last month, we said, well, we definitely have to go to this. This is really a major event to honor David Wenzel. We couldn't be more proud.
Your father was his first visit at our home.
Well,
Your father was really a wonderful man.
Well, we all thought a great deal of David, and he has done great things for our city, and it's a privilege to to know him and to follow his leads. So congratulations on a great accomplishment.
Our next speaker is Joe Ricardo.
I have the privilege of being with David almost every day when I visit him at the Gino Murley Center. And I always call him the 27th, being the 27th mayor of Scranton. And he would love to be here. David, every time we would go into City Hall, he'd say to me, you know, Joe, I was mayor for 4 years, and my election was the most closest narrow election in the history of Scranton when I beat Mayor McNulty. The funny thing is, anywhere I go around Scranton when I was mayor, I didn't meet one person that said they voted against me. So, from Vietnam to City Hall to the National Commission on Disability, Dave Wenzel stood for integrity. He embodied it. Having achieved the pinnacle of success in municipal politics, he left the mayor's office determined to do more. He felt he had to do more. He used it, being mayor, as a stepping stone to really make our city a better place. He became an incredibly active mayor, and he did so much for the people of the city who he loved dearly. David, I would always say, was a happy warrior. He was a fighter. He kept that wonderful smile and twinkle in his eye, but he fought. He fought for his country in Vietnam. He fought for our community, both as mayor and as an active citizen. And boy, he fought all his life to maintain his dignity. It wasn't always easy as a triple amputee. But David was not going to allow any disability to get into his way, to prevent him from achieving his goals. He would not allow it. Even at the Gino Murley Center, 4 years ago, as dementia was ravaging his mind, he fought to keep his dignity, whether it was being able to feed himself or hold a conversation. This man fought. David always said to me he was very, very conscious of every time somebody would refer to him either in person or in writing as the Honorable David J. Wenzel. And he wanted to make sure his greatest fear would be he would fall short of that. This man did not have to fear anything. He lived honorably every day of his life. Please bear with me. I have to say something about the lady right in front of me, Janet Wenzel. Janet also is a veteran of the Vietnam War in many ways. Every day, supporting David. Your constant support and care for him allowed him to do what he did. Over 55 years of support, from being a young bride to now going every day and seeing him at the Gino Murley Center. And David knew that. He constantly felt your love, your care, your gentle hands upon his shoulders, and occasionally around his neck. But as First Lady Janet, you conducted yourself with a grace that brought us pride and joy. Your advocacy of the environment, of trees, your work with the United Nations and other groups made our city a better city and a more caring city. It was a lifetime of service for you as well. I want to conclude by saying I have the privilege of serving with the United Nations Association. And we have Betsy Bonzar, our president, is here, Peggy Ainetta, our treasurer. We have the David J. Wenzel Peace Fund as part of our organization, and I am going to recommend to the board that every year we support a project or activity that supports the eradication, elimination of landmines and other unexploded ordinances of war, and that we do support projects that support the victims. David would get very emotional when he talked about children who were victims of landmines who had been hurt with landmines or cluster munitions, unexploded weapons. And he would say to me, it was hard enough when it happened to him as a young man. He couldn't imagine a child going through that. And we all know that children who are still growing will outgrow their prosthetic limbs, their arms and their legs. So I am prepared to ask the United Nations Association every year for an annual donation from the David J. Wenzel Peace Fund to support the cause of landmine eradication throughout the world. So, thank you.
Our next speaker will be Leo Russo, who is the Director of Outreach at Congressman Brezhnevin's office. Leo.
I never had a chance to meet the mayor, so I called the highest authority there is on Republican politics in Scranton, Mr. Paul Catlano. And after 20 minutes and 2 missed exits, I pulled over in Lenox. And Paul told me a story about the mayor in a hospital bed overseas just days after suffering a catastrophic triple injury. And a nurse was trying to serve him hot tea, and she spilled it all over him, causing third-degree burns. And instead of getting mad or frustrated, David comforted the crying nurse. That's the kind of man who deserves a night like tonight. So on behalf of Congressman Brezhnev, Janet, I'd like to present you with this certificate to recognize the mayor's career of service. Thank you.
Judge Thomas Munley is our next speaker.
Janet, hello.
Hey, George.
Well, thanks, everybody. Thank you very much. Janet, I have something I'm going to tell you about David that I never said before. Yes, now, I've been friends with David Wenzel since the 70s. When I came back from Vietnam, David and I were in Vietnam at the same time. And he was, unfortunately, was injured. But let me just say one thing about David. When I came down with multiple sclerosis and prostate cancer, David used to call me every day and ask me, how you doing, everything okay? And I'm thinking, this poor man lost his arm, 1 arm, 2 legs, and he's worried about how I feel. That's David Wenzel. Dave was my hero. He was my brother in arms. But I want to tell Janet this one story. Dave and I, when he was the mayor, decided to go see the movie Platoon together. So I was so excited that, I'm going with the mayor of Scranton. I was the lawyer then. I'm going with the mayor of Scranton. And I got in my car. I was driving to pick him up, and I smashed into one of the police cars. Right behind. And I went in, I said, Mayor, I smashed into one of your cars, the police. He said, don't worry about it. I don't want to be late for the movie. That's what he said to me, I swear. So it was taken care of, but we went to the movie first. Then we took care of the car. And the name of the movie was Platoon. It was a great movie, Janet. That's a true story. That's a true story. Because when David and I went up to see the movie Platoon, the news media heard that David was going to be there, and they came up to the movie and started taking pictures of David standing by the platoon. Ask Joe Ricardo. He knows the story. It's a true story. Yeah, we did. But yeah, you're right. But you know something about David Wenzel? Oh, there's Senator Bob Casey. Hey, let's say Senator Bob Casey's here. I didn't see him before. But what David Wenzel did for me, myself, Tommy Perry, and Joe Ricardo, when David was feeling better, I do a show called The Law and You for the last 11 years. David Wenzel started doing that show with me, and Veterans Views. He started doing that show with me at Channel 28 till he couldn't go anymore. He wasn't feeling well. But one thing we did, there's a little restaurant in Jessup called Calarusso's. And David and I and Tommy Perry, Joe Ricardo, we used to go up there for dinner about, Joe, once a month? David loved it. He used to look forward to that, Janet. He loved going to Calarusso's, and we used to sit and talk. We talked politics. What else do we talk about? Politics. That's what but he loved it. And I want to say, the old statement, Band of Brothers? David Wenzel was my brother, and he still is my brother, and I love David Wenzel. Thank you very much.
And our final speaker is University of Scranton Distinguished Fellow in Public Service, Senator Robert Casey.
Well, thank you very much. Brian, thanks he added me to the program, and I hesitated because I know that you had so many other speakers. I'll try to be brief, but Janet, I'm honored to be here on behalf of, I guess, in a sense, the university community, and I think it's entirely appropriate that this event is taking place in this magnificent room, but also with that banner you see that Brian leads every day, the Center for Ethics and Excellence in Public Service. So fitting in a way tonight as a testament to David Wenzel's leadership as mayor and his public service, which of course started when he served our country. I can't even imagine, even begin to imagine how he suffered in those days and in a lot of days after that. But he remains an inspiration to not just people who have gone on to serve in all different capacities. I know I saw Mayor Doherty and Mayor Peters among others, but he remains an inspiration for the larger mission of public service, which is something I talk about here at the University of Scranton. I think some of the students who have heard my remarks more than once probably are sick of me talking about service, but I'm going to continue to do it because it helps to repeat. And I think repeating the story and the example of David Wenzel should be part of that presentation that we make, because he gave the ultimate service when he served our country, putting himself at risk, putting himself on the line, and suffering awful consequences. And as Mayor Doherty made reference to, never complaining about it, never, as some in our political debates are always seemed like they're whining about something. He was a shining example to the people of this city, the people of this region, and I think the people of our Commonwealth by extension. When I think of David Wenzel's service to the country, and when I think about his contribution to our city, I think about that line from America the Beautiful. So many wonderful verses of that song, almost like a hymn, almost like a spiritual hymn. But we think of the contributions of those who have served like he did. Judge Munley's another example. I think of that one line, I think it's the third verse. "O beautiful for patriot dream that sees beyond the years." You know, there are folks all the time who talk about patriotism and may not fully understand it. David Wenzel not just understood it, but lived it. He had that dream of a patriot. He was serving because he was not doing something for himself, doing something for the country, and seeing beyond the years, understanding that if he fought and he gave and he served, other lives would be better. So when I think of David Wenzel, I think of that verse, that dream of a patriot that he had and that he lived throughout his whole life of service. So tonight, at this Jesuit institution, which fosters and promotes public service, we couldn't be honoring a more deserving citizen of this city and a more fitting example of true public service and remarkable patriotism. Thank you, and God bless David.
Thank you, Senator. I guess that brings us to the reason we're all here. The Center for Ethics and Excellence in Public Service at the University of Scranton is delighted to present the inaugural Public Service Award to David J. Wenzel. Accepting on his behalf is his wife, Janet Wenzel.
Mike, you're amazing. Thank you so much.
Can we do a photo?
That was beautiful. I want to say one thing. Oh, dear. Well, thank you all for coming. It's very kind. And David always loved a crowd at any function that had his name with it. Also, you could see his videos with he was loved to be photographed. I thank Brian and Jill Eidenberg, Brian Snee. What a wonderful addition to the University of Scranton Brian is, and I hope he stays for many, many years. I have 3 names that I would like to say. I will say nothing about them, just to say thank you. They're all in heaven. Dr. James Geiser, Dr. Marion Odell Carr, and Marjorie Flaith, who without these 3 people, we wouldn't be here today. And all of you know what you did with them or for them or because of them or in spite of them. So I thank you very much. And this is just beautiful. Just beautiful. Thanks, Brian.
Just a few things and we'll be done. First, I'm happy to announce that beginning next year, we will be continuing this tradition of recognizing public service, but doing so with what will henceforth be known as the David J. Wenzel Public Service Award. Thank you for that, Janet. I'm not even going to try to thank all of the people that made this evening happen. There's far too many, but I do want to name check Jill Eidenberg, who organized this event, Michael Canese, our archivist in the library, everyone in the library who put together this beautiful display, and of course Janet for allowing us to do this and entrusting us for at least the evening with David's legacy. Finally, on behalf of the University of Scranton and the Center for Ethics and Excellence in Public Service, I'd like to thank all of you, not just for taking the time to be here today, but also for recognizing in David Wenzel the selfless dedication and honorable determination that continues to define his life. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
David Wenzel is a model of courage, leadership, and community service. Never straying far from his South Side roots, he grew up under the guiding influence of his grandmother, who raised him after his mom Doris passed away when he was 5. David and his brother Bruce had a normal Scranton childhood in their Pear Street home. Family trips consisted of visiting relatives in places like Harvey's Lake, New York, and the annual 2-week outing to Ocean City, New Jersey. The product of the Scranton public school system, David was somewhat of a solitary person who loved to read. He walked to school every day and his favorite subject was history, but by his own admission, he was just an average student.
I wasn't quite as smart as the fellas that I hung out with. but I always hung out with the smart guys. And I like to think I did the same thing when I was the mayor.
Religion played an important part in his life. The family was actively involved at Bethany Baptist Church on the corner of Pittston Avenue, and David himself taught Sunday school for 7 years, starting at the age of 15. Although he had plans of pursuing a business career, he believed the best path was through the Army, so he signed up for the ROTC program at the University of Scranton. After graduation, he was sent to Fort Benning, Georgia for infantry officer basic training, and then to Fort Riley, Kansas. It was on a holiday trip back home from Fort Benning that he proposed to his sweetheart Janet on Christmas Day, 1969.
As a matter of fact, I knew her from the play that Annette Paludas had us in. She was a member of that. She played an egg. I played the father of this girl who has this dream about eggs. And if you ever see the newspaper advertising about this, her name is on there, and my name is right below her name. Really, it was kind of like we were meant to be together.
Interesting. The plan was for a July wedding, but in May of 1970, the Kent State riots broke out and all leaves were canceled in case the military was needed. The wedding did go on as planned, but it was a tight schedule. David came from Kansas to Scranton, got married on July 4th, and the next day returned to Kansas with his new bride. Oh, and as a special wedding gift from Uncle Sam, 5 days after the wedding, he was given his orders to go to Vietnam. Janet returned home to live with her mom and dad and taught at the Prescott School, while David received additional jungle training in Panama before being shipped off. His tour in Vietnam was unfortunately limited. It was January 1971, and as a platoon leader in the 23rd Infantry Division, his job was to scout sites along the river where light mortars could be set up to brighten an enemy stronghold at night. He was there for only 4 months when he accidentally stepped on a booby-trapped mine.
I remember looking off in the distance, and I saw this Vietnamese working in one of his paddies, maybe way off in the distance, and my foot hit something, and I heard a click. And the next thing I know, I'm flat on my back. I never even heard the blast. Wow. Yes, and they were able to get a helicopter into me, and I was in the operating room within 20 minutes. Wow. And that saved my life.
Now a triple amputee, David Wenzel had stays in hospitals in Japan, Anchorage, Alaska, and Fort Dix, New Jersey, before being sent to recuperate for a year at Valley Forge Hospital in Phoenixville. He walked out of the hospital on 2 prosthetic legs and came back to the city that he loved. He returned to the University of Scranton under the GI Bill and got his MBA, but still really didn't have any idea of where his career path would lead. His first job in public service came under Mayor Gene Peters as the city's bicentennial coordinator under the CETA program. He then advanced to become the mayor's executive assistant, a job that gave him public recognition and a real understanding of politics.
I got to know all the press people because they're all coming in and out. I got to know all the people in the administration, and a lot of them are politicians. And one of them, Bill Feldkamp, I remember him very vividly. He once introduced me to a fellow. He says, let's see, he lives in Ohio, but he votes in Scranton.
He liked community service, so he decided to try his hand at politics. He had a successful bid for tax collector and ultimately won the election for the mayor of the city of Scranton, serving 1 term between 1986 and 1990.
Jobs for the future. I'm voting for Wenzel.
I, David J. Wenzel,
swear that I shall obey, support, and defend.
Swear that I shall obey, support, and defend.
There are still those people who feel that handicapped people really only have a limited role to play in our society. And I don't feel that way. I think that every person should have an opportunity to realize his full potential. And I'm just pushing as hard and as fast as I can. And whatever happens along the way, I will accept. All I'm going to do is to try my best and to be my best at all times.
After his term of office, David became involved in many organizations and co-taught a course on Vietnam history at the University of Scranton for the next 15 years. Because of his dedication as an advocate of the disabled, he was invited to give a main address at the Republican National Convention. He was also invited to the White House and became a member of the National Council on Disabilities under President George H.W. Bush. He served on many boards, including United Way, Allied Services, the Girl Scouts, the American Legion, and the University of Scranton Board of Regents. He's also the author of a book on the mayors of Scranton. David Wenzel is an energizing force in our community who shares his passion to enhance the quality of life in northeastern Pennsylvania.
I want to thank NeighborWorks for this great honor. They do the kind of work that I always thought was very important for our city. You know, as the tax collector, we knew about our tax base and everything, but it always comes down to people who make up our community, and helping people one at a time. That's the only way to do it. I'd also like to tell just a quick story about Bob Casey. I was already mayor when he was elected as the governor, and I was at the Republican convention the mayor's convention in Pennsylvania, and he was our guest speaker, and he came over to me, he put his arm around me, he said, "This is my mayor," and I'll always be Bob Casey's mayor. So I want to thank everyone for being here, thank you for this honor and all that, and all the other recipients who I know very well. They've been in and out of my life all these years too, and wish everyone a safe trip home. Thank you.
In recent years, whenever a Vietnam veteran has found his way into the news, there was always a pretty good chance that the news would be anything but good. The horror of his experiences there had been translated into another horror here. But in one triumphant case, a veteran who was the rehabilitator of his own body has set out to be rehabilitator of his city. Marlene Sanders tells the story from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
I, David J. Wenzel,
Swear that I shall obey, support, and defend
swear that I shall obey, support, and defend
the Constitution.
They inaugurated a new mayor in Scranton, Pennsylvania recently, a 40-year-old Vietnam veteran named David Wenzel. For Wenzel, the inauguration was a doubly sweet victory celebration. He had won despite being a triple amputee and a Republican in a predominantly Democratic town.
You'd be the first to call your mayor.
Thank you.
There were those who felt I couldn't stand up to the rigors of the office, and it is a very demanding job as far as your physical limitations are concerned. But I've always accepted a challenge, and I always felt that that if I really wanted something strong enough, that I'd be able to do it.
The party's over. Now let's bring responsible government back to the city of Scranton.
During his campaign, Wenzel jabbed at his opponent, accusing the incumbent administration of irresponsibility and bossism.
Jobs for the future. I'm voting for Wenzel.
He portrayed himself as a member of a new order.
It was done very tastefully, I feel. It's legitimate. As a matter of fact, I feel that Vietnam veterans should become more active in politics, not less. Be proud of the record that they achieved, and willing to stand on that record when they do run for public life. Who knows better about public safety? Who knows better about about what it's like to live on the edge than those people who have experienced what life and death is all about, and then come back to the country and have a right to be the people who were actually making the decisions.
It's hard to find anyone in Scranton who has a bad word to say about Dave Wenzel.
I found him to be a humble individual. I think he is basically a very nice person.
William Garrity, a Democrat, is the president of the city council.
I don't find too many things that separate us philosophically. He is a man of great character, and I don't think he himself, he never leans on this particular disability. He doesn't make any excuses, and he never will. He's not that type of person. I respect him greatly for that.
I'll get it.
Does anybody have Bruce Springsteen's telephone number? And we give him a call.
He's a very popular figure in town.
Joseph X. Flannery is a columnist with the Scranton Times. He's been covering Scranton politics since 1949.
Dave Wenzel is a guy who's coped with life, starting off from a very... one day he was in Vietnam and he's walking down a jungle trail, and not in any particular serious combat zone, but he stepped on a landmine, and he lost 2 legs and an arm and part of the vision in one eye, and it was the perfect excuse for a guy to come home on a stretcher and say the hell with it, and I'm not going to worry about life, let the government take care of me.
Well, now, what's your name?
Maria.
Maria.
So I'm sure, here's a guy who's been terribly crippled in combat and like that, and he comes back. I'm sure that when the Democrat council says no to him, he's going to know how to get up off the floor and take another route.
It's nice talking to you.
Potential recruits?
I think we may have a couple here. Yeah, let's see if we got.
After being wounded, Wenzel was told by doctors he would never walk again, not even with artificial limbs.
I just couldn't picture a life like that. I was making plans when I was in the hospital, but I always felt, deep down, that eventually I was going to be able to walk with the help of artificial legs. And I just kept that as a goal for almost a whole year. It took me about a year to learn how to walk all over again. And I felt that this was a burden that I was going to have to bear. And from the very beginning, I always felt that this was just something that I could overcome. I can't understand what it was, but it was just something that I felt I was going to be able to overcome.
Yes, they did. I read it.
The support I had from the families and from the neighbors and from the people in the community is one of the main reasons I was able to get through, say, with my sanity.
Dave and Janet Wenzel were Scranton High School sweethearts who were married before he went to Vietnam.
Well, when he was in Vietnam, he wrote letters to us, and he said, really, that he was determined to make his life meaningful. And that was the attitude that he came home with. I think whatever he does well, so I think he's going to do a good job for the city of Scranton.
During the campaign, did you ever feel that, in a way, your war record, your disabilities was an advantage?
An advantage, yes. Also a disadvantage. There's always those people out there who feel that a handicapped person is less than able to do the job at hand. First of all, on the UDAG grant, because that was the one that was affecting the Hotel Casey. That was the one I was really worried about.
Mayor David Wenzel has successfully rehabilitated himself. Now he wants to do the same thing for the city of Scranton. Once, Scranton was a town that lived on coal, and when the mines went bust, so almost did Scranton. Today, however, Scranton, a city of 85,000, has a diverse economy and is aggressively seeking to restore some of its past luster. As mayor, Dave Wenzel must lead the way.
Right, okay, that takes us to the second one, which is the Enterprise Development Zone. In talking with DCA, I often look on my life as two separate lives. Everything leading up to when I had my accident and then everything afterwards. It's almost like two separate people.
Mayor, this is Diane Jeffers.
Diane?
She's got a broken leg.
What happened?
I fell down the stairs.
Oh, dear.
This is Barbara, our state finalist, Barbara Jeffers.
Barbara, how are you? Very good.
A
Congratulations.
typical workday in the life of Mayor David Wenzel begins at 9 a.m. He gets the lighter things, such as beauty pageant contestants, done early. He must save energy for a meeting with the all-Democratic City Council later in the day.
Why don't you, Barbara, why don't you come on over here and stand next to me, okay? There we go. Let's see, this one up here is for the Vietnam era veterans. This was given out by the President Carter at the time.
Still, memories of Vietnam are never very far away.
There are still those people who feel that handicapped people really only have a limited role to play in our society. And I don't feel that way. I think that every person should have an opportunity to realize his full potential. And I'm just pushing as hard and as fast as I can. And whatever happens along the way, I will accept. All I'm going to do is to try my best and to be my best at all times.
The conference room?
Okay. So the conference room will have that. Good. Okay. Are you working on the same thing?